endear them.
And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the poolside of the Intercontinental Hotel. If you missed the first part of this show, good grief! It is getting smoking hot out here because Ahmednasir Abdullahi and Senator Kipchumba Murkomen showed up. They're not necessarily friends. Who cares?
We are friends.
We are friends. We are not
You are friends?
Yes.
No, friends.
Okay.
We are learned friends.
There's a tweet from True Dreams. They said, loving the learned friends face-off. Senator, you didn't answer my question in the first half. Let me ask you again real quick before we move on. Will this coalition last through to 17?
Yes, and beyond.
Really?
Yes, up to 2017.
And what happens in 2017?
That will be the end of the coalition after 2017.
Just like that?
Yes.
Okay. The executive right now, I mean, you read Ahmednasir's article in the Sunday Nation.
Not really. I didn't read it.
He has read it. Continue. He reads it every day.
Thank you.
I didn't read it. So
Because I see his tweet. I
don't want you to ask me something that I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you about this.
Yes.
Jubilee, as a government, you've
Yes.
made several blunders in the last year. From Westgate and the report we are still awaiting 9 months later. From Anglo leasing, right? And a whole bunch of others.
Yes, like one of the most critical mistakes they are making now is the one of the Kenya pipeline. When they give a tender to a Lebanese company, I mean, next time we will give companies from Puntland to do major contracts in this country. I mean, if you look at that company, I think they used to do Maram roads in the 80s and 90s.
Yes. Correct.
Now we are giving them one of the biggest contracts in this country, you know. I mean, where is this country going on?
And no one is questioning.
I'm questioning.
You are questioning.
Yes.
I'm sure someone's getting a big fat kickback from that one.
Normally it's 10%. I said in my article, when you give a contract like this, there's no doubt in my mind, and I think my learned friend will agree with me, there's a 10% consideration in this kind of contracts. Don't you agree?
10% of 60 billion?
You know, if
do the math.
I didn't even know about that contract.
Oh,
so for
come
me,
on, man.
No,
Senator.
I'm being honest.
Senator,
I'm being honest.
Don't plead ignorance
No,
here,
I'm
man.
being honest. That is the reserve of my senior counsel, so I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you this.
It's in the papers.
The other thing you talked about was Operation Usalama. Going into Eastleigh was not a very good idea. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think, no, doing an operation anywhere in the country is okay. But I agree with many Kenyans who have voiced their concerns about the manner in which police do their operations. We all know how our policemen are in this country. Not just this year, not last year, not the other year. If there is a sector we need to humanize and to make it, to appreciate human rights, is the police sector. And it must start from the training to the execution. And I agree. I mean, I have sat with some of my colleagues who come from Eastleigh or members of parliament who come from Northeastern, including Senator Bill Okero, among others. And some of the stories you are told, somebody going to the same house to search all the time, and the only reason why they are going there is so that they be paid 10,000, 20,000. It's not acceptable.
Right.
No,
So that is a sector that will require
with the senator.
a lot of reform.
Don't blame the normal cop, you know, who is ordered to do these things. The person who takes the blame, in my view, is the Inspector General. People like Cameo, who sends people to undertake these operations with all these manuals. And I mean, when you entrust, you know, with security with people who have no clue really about how these things work, I mean, that's where the buck stops. You know, not the guy from Kiganjo who is on the normal pit during the night or during the day with very little pay, with very little, you know, I mean, all these things. I mean, let us put the blame where it really lies.
And nobody's doing anything about it. But let me ask you this, Senator. A big majority of Eastleigh folks voted Jubilee. You think they're going to do this the next time around?
Well,
honestly, after what they've been through the last few months, you think they'll vote for you all?
Well, I think if we ensure that the security, because you also remember, the same people of Eastleigh were suffering from insecurity. The blast that occurred there did not kill people from other places. They killed people from that place.
But it's the method of Operation Usalama.
Yes, I agree with you. The method of operation
the blast occurred in Thika. Why wasn't there an operation in Thika? There were blasts that occurred in Thika. Why? You see, as I said in my article, the problem with this government is that they see the security problem as a Somali problem. Full stop. And that is why, every night, including tonight, there's an operation in Isli. There's an operation in South Sea. There's an operation in Robust. I'm sure they must be looking for where I stay so that they can do an operation there also.
I was going to ask you, have they ever hassled you? Have you ever been harassed?
They stopped me so many times just because I'm a Somali. But sometimes when they realize who I am, But there are many who are not you or in your position. Yes, I mean, there are many daily, people who, like a place in Isli, I'm told they wake you up 3-4 times a night. And in every round, they take 5,000 from you. The same happens in South Sea. I mean, this is a country where, discrimination has become so institutionalized. It's now even acceptable to treat a certain, population or sector in this way. Thanks to the people he speaks for.
I think Jeff, that is, as I've said, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's dehumanizing. I'm a lawyer. It's against the human rights.
But you have spoken about it.
But that is not
correct.
Nobody's
spoken about it.
Let's just come to that. That is not the only place that has happened. When the operation was taking place in Mount Elgon, it happened the same. When it happened about cattle rustling in Marakwet and Pokot and Turkana, the same happened. So it's the same in Baragoi and other places. I don't think it's really focusing. It's just that when they want to do an operation and they do in a particular area, we must change the manner in which we are doing what we do.
Yeah. Let's talk about something else. The CCTV scandal now. We're going to put hundreds of CCTV cameras in the major towns. Safaricom was going to be the provider. It went to Parliament and they said no way, because it was single sourced, and Safaricom is not actually a defense company. They don't deal with this kind of equipment. Your thoughts on that? I mean, was that another blunder?
I don't know where, something doesn't become a scandal until you now discover that there were certain legal mistakes or steps that were, not followed. And it is important to appreciate that when Parliament does what they did, they are doing it for the good of the executive and for the country. So we have to wait for the parliamentary process to come.
But didn't you all do your homework? And I'm saying you all being Jubilee.
I am in the Parliament side of Jubilee.
Correct.
The person who announced that this process must be followed is a Jubilee member of Parliament.
But before it gets to Parliament, I'm talking about embarrassment.
Our Procurement Act allows for single sourcing, but there are certain requirements that you must meet under the Act. So the question that we should be asking ourselves is that, did those requirements, were they followed? And that's what the parliamentary committee is going to...
The party you should really feel sorry for in this saga is Safaricom. Such a brand. I mean, they have built that brand for God knows how many years. I mean, then they suddenly get involved in this, it's not fair to the brand they have created for Safaricom to get involved in this kind of single sourcing and all this micro... the image of Safaricom has taken a huge dent, and it will take quite some time before they recover. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah. It's embarrassing for the executive as well. People are making unilateral decisions, it seems.
Jeff, the embarrassment will come once we are done with the parliamentary process. And as one member of Parliament, I have a responsibility to respect the process that's going on in Parliament. When it gets out of that parliamentary process and we realize that the law was not followed, then that's when you can talk about embarrassment.
Anglo Leasing, 1.4 billion paid to Deepak Kimani and his cohorts down the line.
I watched my learned friend on TV some time back saying that, Raila has paid 5.4 million. What is wrong with us paying 1.4? I mean, how could he say something like that?
He said that?
Yes, he said.
Now go on.
He said in a baraza that
now
Raila has paid 5 million when he was in government. We have paid 1.4. For him, does it mean one wrong justifies another wrong?
I'll speak for myself.
Anglo Leasing is a scam, Anglo Leasing is a phantom company. When I was chairman of the Law Society, I took the main players to court, private prosecution on behalf of the Law Society. We charged them with 6 counts under the penal code. On the day when they were supposed to take the plea, the Attorney General entered nolle prosequi. The first time in the history of mankind that an Attorney General entered a nolle prosequi against himself. But you see, Anglo Leasing is always part of the political, power games.
And yet, we paid 1.4, they're demanding another 3.5. When will this madness end?
How can it end? Because Anglo Leasing is always, in government. I mean, these guys who are forcing us to pay Anglo Leasing, actually, we are paying people whom we know. And it will continue. And actually, Treasury has been paying Anglo Leasing for the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
And everybody knows that.
Let me come to that. I said actually this weekend on Saturday that the coalition government, the the Kibaki-Raila coalition, on what we usually like to call Nusumkate government, paid part of the 5.6 billion that was already been paid for Anglo-Leasing. For every decision, because you remember there was something about consensus between the president and the prime minister.
Yep.
For every decision that Raila objected, we know it. It's in public domain. But on that one, he did not. And he was a co-principal. And they paid that amount and committed the country that we have to pay the balance. Now, the only reason that the president gave us for wanting to pay that money was because he was dealing with the greater evil. The greater evil here is that the interest rates were going up, we were floating the Eurobond, and that it was in the best interest of the country to complete this payment of 1.4 so that we can deal with the bigger problem by getting the Eurobond.
Yeah, and then
it makes economic sense. It makes economic
but
sense.
Then the 3.5 creeps in.
That does not mean that it is good to support corruption-related issues. It's just that the country was going to suffer greater.
I agree with him. I agree with him on that point. You know that the government had reached a dead end.
Yes.
There was a judgment in which because of the mistakes they did, they could not appeal.
Yes. Yeah.
What I disagree with him, and which I disagree with the government, is why isn't there no consequence for those people who brought that state of affairs?
But the president has made it clear, Jeff, he made it public that the investigations should continue.
Okay, so
and you remember the report is going on, and I know the Grand Mullah is targeting a particular person.
Okay.
But there are many people who are being investigated.
Last week they called in Deepak Kamani.
Yes, absolutely.
They called him for questioning.
We paid it for the greater good of the country, but releasing someone during investigation does not mean that he's free. Yeah.
Look, man, they've been doing this on and off. It's like,
unfortunately.
Let me tell you, there is nothing to investigate. Don't waste people's time on this investigation. You know that this matter has been investigated so many times. The money has been investigated. The money Deepak Kamani took from Anglo-Leasing, he bought to the hotel in South Coast. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. Ringera, when he was at anti-corruption, knew that. The treasury knows that. Everybody knows that. So this thing of saying that we will investigate, is to hoodwink poor Kenyans, to give them hope that we are uncovering something when you know that there is nothing to uncover.
As a matter of fact, Jeff, the only credible answer I got from the president is that he was dealing for the greater good of the country. Whether we are going, and I am inclined to agree with the senior counsel here, that it is possible that the investigation will also hit a dead end.
Okay,
but the
does
greater
the
evil,
DP, your man, does he agree?
Agree with what?
With what you just said about what the president said
about the greater good.
Yes,
all of us in Jubilee agree for the greater good.
Nemo Marlem, we're switching gears now. Nemo Marlem has said, kindly ask Kip Murkomen why he is, or rather why his party is against national dialogue with CORD.
We are not against national dialogue. I think people have got it wrong. We are only opposed to a dialogue that will be done outside the structures, the constitutional structures. You know what Raila is up to in the so-called national dialogue? He has two objectives. One is to create a situation that there is an illegitimate government in place, and therefore you need to do the things that we used to do during Ufungamano, that I give 5 people and another 5 people, and then therefore we have a debate outside the constitution. My gut feeling tells me that his main objective is to instigate constitutional amendment. Remember, at the first 3 months after the election, he said that this presidential system is not good. We need to go parliamentary system. Last night he was talking about we can't discuss IEBC using the constitutional process of parliament. My feeling is that he is uncomfortable with the constitutional structure as it is, and he would like to create a parallel discourse or discussion out there called a dialogue, so that then he can instigate those amendments to bring another system that perhaps will give him to try if he can ascend to the highest office.
Okay, did you agree?
I agree partly I don't agree. The part I agree with him is that, this national dialogue Raila is bringing is for what? He can't always bring some, ideas then create a whole crisis in the country. This country, if we want to dialogue, we can dialogue with ourselves. But I agree with him there. It's a way of Raila trying to set the agenda for the country, from a position of weakness. The problem I have is, Raila was dead and buried. They are the ones who brought him up because of the mistakes they are making. And that's what we are telling them. Don't make these silly mistakes you are making when you are in power. Implement the mandate the people gave, your agenda, your blueprint. But if they make the mistakes they're making, like giving a big contract to a Lebanese company, you know, Kenyans will revolt against such things, and that is when Raila will become relevant, and that's when Raila will be listened to.
Or him writing to Cameron and saying, let's talk about the Mirror, the ban on Mirror.
I think really...
Hold that thought.
Okay.
That's a good thought.
Okay.
He's trying to stay relevant.
Absolutely.
But
from a position of weakness, you know.
Don't discount that man. You saw the crowd in Uhuru Park.
That crowd can be misleading. I was in a similar crowd in 2007, and we never won.
Oh my, what my? What a show, folks. I tell you, when Senator Murkomen shows up, and then the publisher of the Nairobi Law Monthly, Ahmednasir Abdullahi, by the way, pick up this month's Law Monthly. It's got the Attorney General on the cover, and it says, Bungled Attorney. It's a great read. JKL, live at the poolside of the Intercontinental. We'll be back. Oh yeah, we will be back in a moment.